That is a long run of wall. But I don't want a long run of wall. I want a long run of wall that actually has some brackets on it. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to build some timber frame style brackets. I'm going to put 5 of them down through here. All right. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to attach them straight to the concrete wall. I don't want to attach them to the floor. I want them hanging off the wall, but it's concrete. So I'm going to anchor them in using the Simpson Strongtie system. And I'm going to hang off of these brackets when it's done to just show you how strong Simpson Strongtie is. Take a watch of the video. All right, let's get this project started. Get the garage door open, go out into the truck, get the lumber out of the truck. I'll tell you where I get my lumber. I'm going to start with a joke. What does a pirate say when he gets kicked between the legs? Oh, Menards! That's where the lumber came from, baby. All right, let's unbox the thing that's going to make this whole thing work. And I unboxed it upside down. Let's fix that. The Titen Turbo concrete anchors. They're going to go straight into the wall. Now, before I can screw these into the concrete, I have to make my brackets. And I did this really simply. I set me up a little stop block. I cut these on a 45 and I just kept turning the board. Cut it on a 45, flip it, cut it on the other 45. I did not overthink this part. The mitered cuts came out of 10-foot boards. 10-foot boards are 120 inches. I knew I wanted to get most out of my board, so cut these down to 30 inches each and then just countersunk them from the back and screwed them in from behind. I didn't think a lot about the other bracket either, the top part where the shelf is going to be. I made the measurement one time, set up a stop block, and just started cutting. And it was rinse and repeat. Make a bunch of cuts, and it was just production mode. I figured that I would have 3 brackets per backboard. Now you'll see these brackets are resting up on some plywood. That's because it's a 5.5-inch back piece. The brackets are 3.5 inches. Plywood just makes up the difference so that they're centered. And I'm not going to make you watch me make all of these. Just trust, I made 5 brackets and I spaced them all out just evenly so that when they're on the wall, they'll look perfect. All right, we got the carpentry side of this all wrapped up, and we're going to head over to the shop. And now we're going to deal with, well, the whole thing that's going to make it work. These are the anchors, the Titen Turbo concrete anchors. They're 2 3/4 inch. I'm going to use a 5/32 masonry bit to pre-drill before anchoring them to the wall. Trust me, you want to make sure that you screw them in really well, because if you don't get that whole ream just right, you will strip those screws. I won't show it in the video, but I may or may not have made that mistake a time or two myself. But once I got the hang of it, it was just getting these boards on the wall. Make sure I took my time. Look, you see, I ream it just a little bit, screw it in, lock it in place. So I got one of these bad boys locked in, and it was time to move on to the second one. And there are 5 of these in total. But let me take a moment to backtrack on what I said previously. I said you got to screw into the concrete just right. Otherwise, you'll break the screw. And it's not a fault of the screw. It is definitely a user error. And I found this out the hard way. You can see there are these vertical lines in my concrete. Those vertical lines were the forms where when this thing was poured. And in some of these vertical lines, there are some metal plates hidden in there. I learned that the hard way. These are definitely Simpson Strongtie concrete screws, not steel screws. So if you try to force it through the steel, let me just tell you, you will not be successful and you will break them, as I learned the hard way. Nevertheless, I had to move off of those relief lines, and then, I had to use my level, take my time. As you see, I'm going through here, really reaming each hole. I backed off of my impact a little bit, put it down to the screw drive setting. So my impact has like a 1, 2, 3, and then a screw drive setting. I think when I was breaking a couple of screws, 1, the metal, 2, I had it in number 3 mode, which is the strongest that impact driver is. So I just put it in screw mode and took my time. If it didn't feel like it was going to go well, I backed it off, pulled the screw back out, went back in, reamed it in a couple more times, and I never had trouble after that. But it did take me some finagling. This is, again, user error, not the product. Once I actually started reaming it correctly, getting the holes drilled just right, not trying to drill through metal, suckers worked just perfectly. And after I got this one all anchored in, I moved on down the line. Now I skipped the next one. You didn't want to watch me install all of these brackets now, did you? But I am going to make you watch me install this last one. See, I got my system down pat. Got the level set up. I got my spacer block underneath that you didn't know I had. Got myself screwed into the wall. Now I'm reaming real good. Get my impact. Put my 2 3/4 inch Simpson Strongtie bolt right in place. Screw her in. Come back over. Now I will say this. I didn't ream both holes at the same time. I reamed one, then I get my Titen Turbo concrete anchor and anchor it in place. Then I come back and ream it again because it is really fickle. You have to have really good alignment. That's what these are designed for. And boom, move on down to the bottom. These are my last ones. I have 2 screws left before this whole bracket system is completely done. And I tell you what, I'm really pleased with the end product because these suckers are strong as can be. All right, let's see how strong these bad boys are. Those are some strong brackets. They wouldn't be that strong, however, if it wasn't for the Simpson Strongtie bolts that I have shot directly into the concrete, giving it that cantilever force. Now, I know I still have shelves to build for these brackets, but that system, if it can hold me, it can hold any Christmas storage or any other storage that's going to go on these shelves. So for your next concrete project, use Simpson Strongtie.